I want to welcome everybody again for tuning in for our third session with our winemakers from Greece. And I want to thank everybody for taking time out of their schedules and making a little bit of time to get a little bit of education, a little bit of a distraction, and some great information, and also see some smiling faces from across the pond. So we want to welcome Angelos Iatridis, winemaker, founder, father,
Yes.
visionary, and from Alpha State in northern Greece. Angelo is one of the pioneers of Greece. He is one of the pivotal figures in cultivation and winemaking, specific of all of Greece, but specifically of northern Greece, and specifically to an appellation that was almost completely ignored or not even on the map of most winemaking in Greece until Angelo went and set up shop there. Way back in the late 90s and early 2000s. We are happy to have one of his cohorts as well on the line here. He's standing in the middle of the vineyards there, Konstantinos Iatridis. He is the right-hand guy for Angelo in terms of running the business. And Konstantinos has been there, my God, probably 15, 16, 17 years. I don't know, something long time. He came with the furniture. So Angelo, welcome.
Before the furniture.
Before the furniture, we got a Cosandino. So Angelo, welcome to, thank you for taking time out of your day and out of your evening. You're 8 hours ahead of us. Thank you for taking the time and sitting down and joining us and bringing yourself to us to talk about a little bit of what's going on in Greece, and what's going on in your vineyards and what's going on in your life. So we want to start with the most basic question, the question that everybody asks, everything we ask everybody. How is your life in your world in the time of COVID? What is going on? How are you getting through this? What are you able to do? What you're not able to do? How is that affecting you personally? How's it affecting your business?
Hi all. Hi Ted. Thank you for the invitation and joining your lovely meeting. Our lovely faces. I have to see you long time now. You know what? It happens right now in Greece. It's the whole country is under lockdown, so all the businesses are closed. There are a lot of restrictions concerning the transports. The people need a specific license to go out from the home. So the only way to go out is to go to a doctor or to go to your work. It's hard time. We have the great pleasure right now to have a lot of work in the vineyards. What happens right now in Alpha State is we are running a huge project of conversion of the vineyards. So with Bakaschetas nursery, we extend our plantation with xinomavro new clones that are already in production. So certified clones. The bad thing is they're certified. Don't have a Greek status, a Greek organization to do that. But we have a plantation of 30 hectares of vines right now. So that demands a lot of work. It's very intense. I sent to Johnny today some photos of the new plantation. There are working more than 55 people in the fields, and that attracts all our attention right now, which is good in terms of psychologists that give us the the strength to focus on the future, because the present right now it's a little bit blur.
Right.
And this is it.
Okay. Well, yeah, as we've all seen, and what you're giving us example, you can't quarantine nature. Nature keeps on moving. Planting keeps on moving. Are you taking special precautions with your workers in the field? Are there things that you are doing that typically you wouldn't be doing because of the COVID? How are you treating that with your employees?
Our first priority is the health condition of our employees. So this is the most important thing, of course. Above everything is the life itself, above anything in the world. So for us, our more powerful, let's say, weapon is the workforce in the fields, in the winery. So this is the major attention we have to them. So there are a lot of restrictions about how they work, how they move. They can be just two in every vehicle, two persons. All the movements doing this way. They're wearing masks and gloves to do jobs. There are, let's say, in the field it's way easier. There is a social distance between them, so there is a distance. So all the precautions, all the measures we can take, we take it.
Okay, great. So I want to get into a little bit with you, Angelo, about Amidion, because as I stated earlier, you are one of the pioneers of this almost forgotten about appellation that's not forgotten about anymore. And so let's talk a little bit about what, in brief, in a few words, what brought you to Amidion? You're not from Amidion, you're from Thessaloniki, which is one of the larger cities in northern Greece. But what attracted you to Amidion? What brought you there? And what did you see as the potential? Why did you like Amidion as a growing region where everybody else had ignored it and forgotten about it? And I'm going to flash a couple pictures of the winery so you guys can see a little bit of the terroir or what goes on up there. So while Angelo is talking to us about it.
So why Amidion? As a winemaker, when I came back from France, from finalize my studies and working in different wine growing areas there, so like Bordeaux, Champagne, Alsace, Vallée du Rhône, and Madiran. I came back to Greece and I set up with friends a consulting company from wine to wine. So I work in many different appellations in Greece. There are many differences among them, and what I saw in a way that I felt the potential of vine growing area of Amidion. So as a consultant, I had a project from NATO called, the name of the project called Science for Peace. That happens when the problems with the country in northern part of Greece, now called North Macedonia. We're starting the issues because of their names, because we are in Macedonia as well. So NATO put some funds in order to the scientific developments in both countries. Our experimentation this time is the evaluation of the Amidion appellation wine growing area. And because of that, I realized the potential in this, because working in many in other appellation as well. And there I see the high potential of, I can call everything in one word. French call terroir, I call it ecosystem, the Greek name.
Okay.
So, this happens, I met my partner, Angelos Iatridis, which is a great guy.
Here's a picture of Angelo and Mikey right there.
yeah, who is the vine grower. It's the most important guy in the Alpha, and we join our forces in order to make our dreams come true and make our own vineyards, our own wines. Now Alpha Estate is estate growing winery, so we own 180 hectares of vines located in neighborhood area of Amindon appellation.
Okay, and tell us a little bit what specifically about Amidion you loved in terms of climatic conditions and soil profile. What excited you about this? The raw, not terroir, but terrain of the region that made you see your vision.
You know, what you have to understand is the fact that Amindon is located in the northern part of Greece, in a high plateau. Is the unique appellation in Greece where the climate is not a Mediterranean climate. So there is no direct influences from the ocean, from the Mediterranean Sea, because there are two barrages of mountains, the Mount Olympus next to Aegean Sea, and then behind the Olympus mountain is the Vermion mountain. So there is, I can say there is zero influence from Mediterranean. So the climate, it's a cool climate, it's a semi-continental climate. The whole appellation is located in a high plateau of 2,100 feet above sea level, the altitude. It's a high plateau surrounded by three major mountains. From west is the Mount Vici. From north is the Mount Voras, and from east is the Mount Vermio. So it's a unique climate that it's what happens is there is no extremes in terms of temperature during winter or summer times. Also, there are into this appellation there are in such altitude there are two lakes surrounding the appellation as well. From north is our lake called Petres, and from east is our lake called Vegoritis. So there are both lakes are moderator of this climate. So during the summer times they release heat, fresh, and during winter time they release heat. So there is a very good, let's say, tampon for the climate in Amindon.
Right. So, so the mountains that you mentioned that surround this high mountain plateau, they're between 5,000 and 7,000 feet elevation, so they're fairly high mountains. The two lakes that you mentioned are also crater lakes, so meteor hits, so they're very deep lakes as well, 300 to 400 feet in depth. Here we have a picture of actually some of your vineyards and location of the lakes that we have up right now on the slide, kind of showing you the growing region. But more importantly, you know, talk about the perennial temperature shift in this area. Talk about, you said it's a semi-continental climate. How does that affect your growing? How does it affect what kind of effects did it have and does it have on cultivation in this region? And the soil profile, please touch on the soil profile.
Yes, I think Ted, you have some slides from our soil profiles. The most important thing is the top layer. It's a sandy soil. Yes, yeah. Exactly. As you can see, the top soil is a sandy soil, so it's a low fertility soil with low concentration of many nutrients. But underneath, as you can see, there is the alluvial soil of limestone. So you can see it's starting to be whitening. So this is these alluvions attract all the micro elements from the past lakes. 1,000 years before, the whole appellation used to be covered by a lake. So there is where the routinary system, the roots, attracts all the metallic compounds to nourishing the vine, which is very important and very unique. The great advantage of the area is the temperature, and the temperature mainly during the summertime, the ripening season of the vine. We have an excellent difference day and night average temperature, about 15 degrees of Celsius, which gives an extended vegetative cycle for the vines, which is good in terms of having high level of ripening in phenolics and in aromatics.
Fantastic. And in this picture as well, so right between the sand and the limestone, you have clay. Is that correct?
In the lower level of Amindon Plateau, there is some clay, and this lower plateau, the Vegora Plateau, it's where the white varietals growing in our estate. So white varietals like Malagusia and Assyrtiko.
So this red area that we see right here is what you're referring to as the Vegora Plateau, which is closer to the lake at a lower elevation. And here you have more clay. And up in this Agios and Petres, you would say are more limestone?
In Agios and Petres, there are more limestone. Yes, exactly. And in Vegora, there are a lot more clay than sandy soils.
Okay. Tell us a little bit more about the variety of the region. So this is one of the 200% varietal appellations of xinomavro. Now, xinomavro is one of the really noble red varieties of Greece. Can you tell us a little bit, first of all, about the variety, and about specifically about xinomavro of Amidon versus xinomavro of Nausau or xinomavro from some other region in Greece? What
Goumenissa and Rapsani. There are four major appellations for xinomavro. There are in Nausau and Amindon, which is 100% appellation from xinomavro variety, 100% xinomavro. And there is a third one in Goumenissa, northern to Thessaloniki, which is a blend of xinomavro with Negoska. And there is a fourth appellation with xinomavro grapes, which is in Rapsani, in the slopes of Mount Olympus, having Crasato and Stavroto with xinomavro. So xinomavro, if we like to compare the two major zones of xinomavro, which is Amindon and Nausau, Nausau, because of the heavier soils, it's more clay in Nausau, and it's lower altitude in Nausau. So we have much more, let's say, full body and aggressive xinomavro expression. In Amindon, because of the altitudes and the sandy soil, we have a more finessing xinomavro expression. This is the two differences between these varietals, this appellation. And one major difference is the fact, because of the altitude and the northern orientation of the vineyard in Amindon, we have higher acidities and significantly lower pH than Nausau.
Okay, and now and also Amidon is also the only rosé appellation or PDO of Greece as well.
Yes, yeah.
Talk about that a little bit. Why that occurred, why it, and why that is how it is.
Xinomavro, Amindon is the only rosé appellation in Greece. So, and because of the altitude and once again, I have to tell the acidity, it gives a very crispy character of red, fresh red fruit of this variety, which is very elegant and very vibrant in the mouth. So the rosé of Amindon is really outstanding wine, and it's a grown category everywhere.
And does it have to be 100% xinomavro to be an appellation rosé?
It has to be 100% xinomavro, yes, to be an appellation rosé.
Is Amidon also now a sparkling rosé appellation? Can you be a PDO for sparkling?
Yes, it's a sparkling rosé appellation as well. This is our next project. Our plan is where to finalize our sparkling plant in the end of 2021. Maybe now we'll be a bit behind that.
Sure. And we're excited about that. We're super excited because we've seen other really great examples of sparkling wine being made up in Amidon. And I think with the talent and the abilities of Alpha State and Angelo and Makis, of course, I think their wines are going to be great examples of sparkling wine from northern Greece and from the appellation of Amidon. Now, tell us about, because of the unique setting, because the 85% sand soils, because of your semi-continental climate, because of your cold temperatures, what kind of farming practices did you pioneer, or do you prefer in this region?
You know, what is very important for us, it's the philosophy of low input viticulture. Actually, this is the extension of sustainable viticulture. We are certified sustainable, but right now we are working with our viticulturists in order to apply the low input viticulture philosophy. And after the experience we have in Amindon, because of it's an isolated appellation, it's very easy to be very close to organic in many things to do in viticulture. So it's quite easy to working in this philosophy. So it's the respect of the wine, and at the same time the respect of the ecosystem.
Okay. And you talked about ecosystem a lot, and actually you have created a relatively, not new, but a more focused wine selection that you do call ecosystem. And we're going to show you that real quick right here and show you what that's about. Tell us a little bit about your ecosystem wines. And here is a great picture. Nope, where are they? Sorry, everybody. Technology. Yeah. Here's a great picture of your ecosystem wines. Tell us a little bit about why you chose these vineyard sites, these varieties, and tell us a little bit about your entire ecosystem line.
The ecosystem it was a project starting many years back. It's a project with the University of Geisenheim. So we isolated wild yeast in every separated block in the vineyard, and what we did is working and find let's say the best typicity in our knowledge in order to having the best results in our wine. So with the wild yeast, but selected from us, gave us the opportunity to have the higher typicity in every different block. Our idea is this project will be extended for every block in our vineyard. So we are divided our vineyard in 95 different blocks, and this is a project that will finalize with in the time of our children, I hope.
Okay, so in other words, these are representations of single block and single varieties, correct?
Correct.
And when you talk about your yeast strains, these are indigenous yeast strains to this specific micro ecosystem for each block?
Exactly. To the specific block. Every block has a different, let's say, a different population of yeast.
Okay.
This project starting in 2005 and finalized in 2013. So 2013 was our first launch of xinomavro reserve old vines.
Okay, so and so we have indigenous yeast. We do sustainable cultivation as well throughout all your vineyards, and you mentioned you're just a notch away from being organic. So you practice mostly natural organic farming in all your vineyards. Do you consider these low intervention wines on your part for these ecosystems?
It's where it starts our low intervention philosophy about in our vineyards. So now with the conversion of where running right now, will continue this way of farming, low intervention farming.
Okay. Now we see on these labels, and we're going to talk about this as leads right into my next question for you. You're an appellation of xinomavro. So that is one of your main varieties that you cultivate. You make still reds from your xinomavro, you make old vine, you make your hedgehog vineyard, which is one of your flagship wines. You utilize for indigenous on white Malaguzia. But you do have a lot of non-indigenous varieties. Why that choice? What excites, besides the indigenous varieties, what excites you on the non-indigenous side that you have planted on your vineyards?
You know, I can joke right now, but I'm not a racist. I like to.
Okay.
As a winemaker, I have to discover many different things. I believe a Greek guy can be very good in Greece, but also like you can be in the United States. It's the same approach. So I like to experiment. I like the trials. And this is the main reason we have more than 13 different varietals in experimental vineyards, and see how is the behavior of this varietal in Mindon. Because I have to tell you many times, Mindon is a blessing appellation. It's an isolated, and it's a cool climate with relatively very low rainfalls during the summer, which gives a very nice opportunity to have high levels of ripening without being extremes. This is the great advantage of Mindon.
Okay, and about those international varieties, which is your favorite of all the international varieties that you cultivate and make wine from?
Among the international varieties, what I like the best is Tannat.
Okay.
Tannat for me, because it's you know, it's very hard to grow Tannat. There are late season harvest variety, so it's the last one after xinomavro, and demands a lot of care. during the growing season. Imagine that the whole cluster of Tanat have a side shoulder on the grapes. So it's very important that you take off this shoulder just before the horizon in order to achieve an homogeneous ripening in the cluster, in the grapes. Tanat tends to go to give higher yield, so you have to be under stress condition during the whole season. So you have to trim the top, the vines of Tanat very often in order to stop the growth of the cluster. So, and you need many times green harvest as well.
Okay, so your favorite variety is probably one of the most difficult varieties to work with and to cultivate. So you like work.
This is a challenge. This is a challenge.
Challenge, right?
It's a challenge.
And how about, well, listen, one variety that we know that you love that's not Greek, and I think you're one of the great producers of farmers of this variety is Sauvignon Blanc. Yeah. And please tell people that your PhD thesis on was the aromatics of Sauvignon Blanc. So I think you like that variety as well.
Yes. This variety is part of my studies, a major part of my studies, working with, in the University of Bordeaux with Professor de Bourdieu, which is one of the top professor in aromas of Sauvignon Blanc and growing and winemaking criteria of having a typicity of Sauvignon Blanc. And I believe that there are a lot of secrets in growing as well and in winemaking of Sauvignon Blanc. Of course, you need the right soils, the right canopy management, when you have to keep the cluster in the shape, when you have to take off the bottom leaves from the plants. It's very important. It is a critical parameters that you have to follow if you like to have very expressive Sauvignon Blanc. I believe we manage very well. Now we have more than 20 years old vines, and we have very good results, very typical results with our Sauvignon Blancs.
Great, thank you for that. Now, let's take one more second to talk about xinomavro, because you make two levels of xinomavro, and that's one of your most important varieties, and you are one of the masters on that variety. You make an old vine, and we'll show you the old vines in a second here. I'll put them on the screen for you guys. And you make your hedgehog. You take two different, besides the yields and the farming that exists for the old vines versus your younger vines, which are 20 years old as well. Is there any difference in terms of how you handle the fruit in the winery? Do you take a different process or approach to the old vines that you don't take on to the hedgehog vines?
Yeah. So the old vines were planted in 1919. So it's more than 100 years old. So it's a pre-phylloxera vines, ungrafted. I think it's a heritage for xinomavro. It's the oldest single block of 100 years old xinomavro in Western Macedonia.
And that includes that would include the appellation of Nausa as well?
Now, Nausa, as you probably know, has less and less xinomavro because of the abandon of growing grapes, because of many reasons. There are a lot of
economic reasons. Yeah,
producers, they left actually the market, but now it's the oldest xinomavro grapes, the oldest xinomavro vines in the whole, in every appellation of xinomavro.
Okay, thank you for that.
So
it's a great point.
The point, what is different, for the xinomavro, a critical thing for choosing the date of harvest is tasting and see as well the color of the seeds. Because of the size of the xinomavro grapes, there are always at least 3 to 4 seeds. So the extraction of the phenolics from the seeds, it's an important criterion of for the great vintages of xinomavro. The ripening of the seeds is even more important than the ripening from the grapes itself. So xinomavro is another variety tend to be very productive, give high yield. So always needs to be in these old vines, in the gobelets vines like you see here. There is a high stress because of the very limited leaf area, and but imagine at the same time there is a roots going underneath about 12 meters to 15 meters, meaning
40 feet. That's
15 feet. And you imagine all the absorption of the nutrients and the metallics from the soil, how much concentration can go to the grapes. This is very important. This is why it's a very unique character, this kind of wine of xinomavro coming from old vines. So you can see a very good structure, very round phenolics for this xinomavro old vines. And the most important thing is to follow the evolution palette of xinomavro old vines. You know, the evolution palette of xinomavro starting with small berries, foresty fruits, red berries, foresty fruits, going to turn to prunes, to dry fruits, and the end of aging turns to olive pate or skin of dry tomato. So
stewed tomatoes, dry tomatoes. Right.
This is normal vines. We have very extended time for aging because of the acidity. Acidity make all this evolution very slowly. Turn to the xinomavro hedgehog, which is coming from lighter soil. The hedgehog is lighter soil. It's 90% sandy soil. So we have much more delicate expression aromas, more fresh aromas for xinomavro. There is a medium to light body, as you realize, and it's the acidity is as well in this level, maybe sometimes higher than the old wine. So we have a very fresh, very vibrant mouth
expression. And hedgehog vineyards are in Petrus or Ayos or a medium.
The hedgehog is in Ayos. Is the Ayos.
In this green area right here. Okay, more
yes,
sandy.
Exactly.
Okay, great.
Exactly.
Thank you for that. Thanks for pointing that out to everybody. Thank you. So, because we are a little bit running out of time, and I want to open it up to some questions from everybody that tuned in. But before we do that, we have a couple little rapid-fired questions. Just one answer, one word, 2-word answers, because I believe as important as your wines are to every winemaker, as important as the region is and topography is, the people behind the wine are as important. And we want to know a little bit about you, Angelo, what you like to do, and who are you? Who is Angelos Iatridis? Okay, what's your hobby? What hobbies do you have apart from making phenomenal wine and farming?
You know that is driving.
Driving. All right, that's more of a necessity than a. So just for everybody out there, Angelo drives every day. He lives in Thessaloniki. He works in a medium where the winery and the vineyards are at, of course. That is, for most people, that's about a 3-hour drive. Angelo does it in an hour. So I guess driving would be your hobby. Okay.
Imagine right now, through the time of lockdown, there is no inspections. So there is no inspection.
No traffic stops. No traffic stops.
There is no traffic. There is no nothing. So
now you do it in how long?
Because Eva is right next to me, I'll tell you in
Eva
later.
is Angelo's beautiful wife. So he is also a smart guy. Okay, next rapid fire question. What's your favorite wine outside of Greece and outside of your own, of course?
My favorite wine is coming from Australia. It's a Syrah from Henske. Hill of Grace.
Hill of Grace, Henschke. Fantastic wine. Great choice. We love that wine. Love that producer. How about your favorite wine region outside of Greece?
Alsace.
Alsace. Beautiful. Your favorite music?
This is for
Does it have
my
to be a
time.
band
This is
style?
for my times. I love electropop.
Okay, awesome. And in your travels, because I know you are a world traveler because of work. You've been all over the globe. You're one of the hardest working winemakers I've ever met in my life in terms of also doing the other part of the business, which is selling, which is so important, and being an ambassador of your own wines. This man is a machine. But where do you like to travel for yourself?
I was a machine. Now I'm stopped. Now
Yeah, you were a machine.
I'm locked down.
What is your favorite places in the world to go for yourself, for relaxation, for enjoyment, not for work?
The Great Barrier Reef in Australia.
All right. I think you like Australia a lot.
Yes.
Okay.
You know why? Because the guys there have the mentality of the Mediterraneans, but there are British. It's a mixture. So you see a very good, let's say, organization and very good, attitude of people. The mentality of the people is great. So yeah.
So we want a couple questions from everybody out there. We have a question here about Malaguzia. Are there different faces of Malaguzia depending on cultivation, depending on viticulture practices and winemaking? Because there seems to be a full range of Malaguzia profiles out there. What do you feel about Malaguzia, and how do you feel it differs depending on how you cultivate it and how other people are cultivating?
What I've noticed all this year growing Malaguzia and making the wines from Malaguzia is I've noticed that during the most cool vintages, I noticed that the aromatics of Malaguzia tend to be more white blossom character, more citrus zest like this. And during the warmer season, during the when there is a warmer vintages, we see that Malaguzia is kind of subterpenic. It's sub-muscat aromas. This is what happens. For me, the Malaguzia have these two phases, depending of where is grown. I have noticed many times in southern Greece, Malaguzia it's more terpenic, more sub-muscat varietal character. In northern Greece, especially in the cool climate where we are, it's mainly white blossom character. This is very typical for me. Okay.
Are you using any type of special vinification techniques on Malaguzia that others aren't? Do you think
in Malaguzia it's mainly the trellis system, the pruning system? Sorry, it's single cordon. It's quite dense. It's around 6,500 plants per hectare. So it's quite dense. It's 0.8 to 2 meters from row to row, 0.8 from plant to plant, and it's the shade of Malaguzia cluster is very important. Otherwise, lose his acidity. Malaguzia. Okay. So you have to be under shade. And in Amidon, Malaguzia comes to ripening between the 2nd and the 3rd week of September.
Okay. We have another question. a little more technical question. I love these kind of questions because they educate me as well. Do you use maceration pelliculaire with Sauvignon Blanc as Professor de Bourdeau championed?
Of course, I'm a student. So
you can imagine who that question came from, by the way, and it wasn't me.
No doubt. Yes, it's very important for me, skin contact, but you have to have the not be so very extended the time of maceration for all white varietals and for the xinomavro rosé wines. It's very important to. Yes.
No, please go ahead.
And for the xinomavro rosé and for all white varietals, it's very important the skin contact. For me, it's the optimum is between 2 and 5 hours, depending of the vintage, depending of the variety.
At what temperature?
Between 9 and 11.
9 and 11 Celsius. Okay.
Yes.
Now we have another question. Do you feel that the international varieties with the indigenous are more marketable to countries outside of Greece, the blends of indigenous and non-indigenous? How do you feel about that?
You know, the answer has to be given by you. You know, it's
but you're on the spot.
You're working in the most competitive market in the world. But I believe that the most important thing is the people, the team behind the wine. So that's why for me it's important. You have to close your eyes and enjoy the wine. For us, the Greeks, it's very important to in blind tasting, coming our wine at the top. We don't have to drink the label. We have to drink the wine. Of course, there is the typicity, there is the character of every variety, which is very important, but also there are the whole team behind this label. It's not the winemaker, it's Kostas, it's Makis, it's the people working in the field, unstoppable, working Sundays, Fridays, Saturdays, this is a teamwork. This is the most important for me, and people don't know how difficult and how important it is to support this part of business. So it's the people, it's the human potential behind the label of wine.
Okay. Now we have one other question. Can you discuss how you manage xinomavro in the winery in terms of press fermenters? Do you take a different approach than you would take from other varieties when it comes to xinomavro? In terms of pressing, fermenting, macerations?
Concerning xinomavro, I believe that the best way of making a quite selected extraction from maceration for xinomavro is working on rotating tanks, rotated vats. So we have rotated vats who any time of fermentation or during maceration, we have the possibility of taking off the seeds, the pips. When we know that the astringency, the aggressivity of tan is going high, that expected, we have the possibility of taking off the seeds.
Great. So as
there is a perforated grill,
right,
in the bottom of the vat. So we have through a pump over to take off an important percentage of seeds.
Okay, and this is during fermentation, or
during fermentation? But there is a post maceration after fermentation. So it depends. You have to taste xinomavro. You have to taste every day, many times of the day.
Is managing color a challenge or no?
is when you say managing color, meaning stabilize the color, because xinomavro have a low, let's say, the color intensity is quite low. It's very close to Pinot Noir, for example, in terms of numbers, but this is not important. The most important is you have to, let's say, not proceed to micro-oxygenation, but put some oxygen during aging in xinomavro wines in order to stabilize the color intensity of this variety, because you have to make the traction between the phenolics, the tannins, and the anthocyanins, making stable connection between them.
Okay. One more question. So do the roto fermenters work better for delestage when it comes to xinomavro?
Talking about xinomavro, you have to do both. You have during the first delestage is for the first days of maceration, just before the intense fermentation starts. So the 3-4 days of first days of fermentation, you proceed in delestage procedure.
In the roto fermenters or in the horizontal?
Yes, you can take off the juice and send it back.
Do you use vertical and roto fermenters? Do you use both?
For the old vines, it's just rotation. It's
okay. How about for hedgehog?
For the hedgehog, it's the normal
vertical tank fermenters. Okay. Okay. Let's have a couple more questions here. Anybody else that has a question, please shoot it out there. We have about 4 minutes left here of Angelo Live. Anything else? I can unmute yourself. You can unmute yourselves and ask the question on your own as well. Or I have a long list of questions I can ask if anybody else doesn't mind. And I'll jump in there and do that as well. So talk about your oak program, because I know you're a pioneer in Greece in terms of barrels. Tell us about what you feel about barrels and oak treatment for all your wines in general.
This is another important, during my consultancy time, I worked with Professor Glory for the level of toasting in barrels. So we experiment at that time, before 2000, was 1995, with white toasted barrels. White, actually, white is just steamed, not fire bent barrels. So you take just the astringency from the barrels, and you have you use the barrel mainly for the oxygen going into the barrels through the grains of the barrels. But Ted, I like that Konstantinos speak a little bit about his approach for alpha. I don't know.
Sure. Konstantinos, talk to us.
Well, first of all, it's very important to be able to sell a product that is very high in terms of quality. It makes things much more easier. And the basic fact that Angelos had a very profound export approach in the job that he does from the beginning with Makis is also, I think that these are the two pillars onto which everything has been built for on Alpha State. And that has made things easier marketing the wines. On the other side, it's very unorthodox the way that they both started Alpha State, because they started with high-level wines. They didn't start with commercial wines. So they started with the SMX, they started with the Sauvignon Blanc and with the xinomavro Reserve. The entry-level wines, entry-level as we call them in the winery, the single vineyard wines, the Malagousia, the xinomavro, Hedgehog, all those came after that. So it was, I'm sure that it was very challenging for them to be able to set up on those parameters. But at the same time, those were the things that created the drive for Alpha Estate to have, within a very short time, to be able to be established as a leading quality wine producer in Greece.
Okay, thank you for that, Costantino.
I have to tell, I have everybody know that Ted Diamandis was our first commercial approach ever in Greece, outside of Greece, domestic market, and international market.
I bought the first
He
cases.
sent us the first money. He bought the first batch of Alpha Estate wines. You know, I have to.
2002, before it was even commercially available. And
Exactly.
I still have some of that wine, by the way. I didn't drink it all, and I didn't sell it all, but I still have some, and I'm very proud to have that first label. And Angelo was also the first to put Braille on all his labels of anybody in Greece. So Angelo has been prototipos, which means the first in a lot of things, especially in his region. I want to thank you for coming on board today. Thank you, Costantino. Thank you, Angelos. Thank you for making all these wonderful wines, for pioneering winemaking in northern Greece, for showing us what the potential of this region is and what the potential of the varieties that you cultivate are. Thank you for all your effort. Thank you for your dedication to quality and estate cultivation and the farming that you do. And I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Next week, we do have 3 other segments. We will be talking Nausa with Stelio Butari. We're going to be talking with Milonas and Atikian about Savatiano. And we will be also talking Crete at the end of the week with Nikos Douboufakis and the Alexakis brothers. So we look forward to seeing everybody again next week. Thank you for everybody that joined in. I hope this was a pleasant and informational experience and a distraction. And we wish you safety and health to everybody. And again, thank you very much. Be well.